Greetings, this is Jimmy, and welcome to Free Korea Radio Broadcast, Radio Podcast. This is Jimmy SantAngelo, and I thank you for tuning in. And this is my very first live radio broadcast for Free Korea Radio. And I welcome you to the show. Please feel free to go ahead and contribute, listen, and thank you for joining in. So here we're going to play a little intro music here. All right, and away we go. All right, it's a little bit calming here, but I really like this one right here. And here we go. All right, it's called Rise of the King. Rise of the King. We'll let that play for a moment. Love it. So here on Podbean, they give you music to choose from. And what do we have? We have some audio effects over here as well. We can cheer. Just turn that up some. All right, one more time. All right, thank you for the enthusiastic cheering there and got the audience clapping. All right, so anyway, as my first live podcast, once again, I welcome you to the show, and I hope to be doing numerous other broadcasts. And I just want to say, 감사합니다, thank you for tuning in, and 예수님 하나님이시다. Jesus is God. Jesus is Lord. And now, what do we talk about? So I was stationed in South Korea in the 1970s, 1976, 1977. Yes, with the United States Armed Forces, United States Army at Camp Page, Chuncheon, South Korea, 4th United States Missile Command, Gangwon-do Province, 65 miles northeast of Seoul. So Seoul is actually, from what I understand, about 5 miles from the DMZ, right? And it is on the northwest part of South Korea, nearly at the DMZ. Now from there, 65 miles northeast is Camp Page, or was Camp Page. Now Camp Page was actually there, more or less. It was an airstrip, airfield, and at the start of the Korean War, it was overrun and captured and had to be fought to be taken back. And it was right up by the DMZ. Well, not as close as Seoul. It was 30 miles from the DMZ. But during that invasion, the South was overrun completely pretty quick. So when we made it into Incheon, okay, also near Seoul, at the west coast of the Yellow Sea, and fought our way in through Korea, going east, north, and south. Then we recaptured Camp Page, or that airfield rather, K-47 it was known as, and they established Camp Page there during 1950 at the start of the conflict, and when we had fought to take back that land. So they established the base in the middle of the war, Camp Page, in 1950, and it was there from 1950 to 2005, October, and it was the very first American base to be closed, sadly, and that was in 2005. Now it is all but gone. The land is there, the base is gone, and now they've turned it into something else, and I don't even really want to go into what it is that they turned it into. Nevertheless, it was the first of many bases to be closed in South Korea, which in my opinion was a mistake and an error for them to do so. Nevertheless, I was stationed there from August 1976, was assigned to 13th month tour of duty because it is considered also as Indochina as Vietnam was. even on my DD-214, my Department of Defense brief discharge paper, it says Indochina or Korea service since 1965, which implies Vietnam. And it says yes, double checked twice, yes. And it's very interesting because Vietnam and Korea have a lot in common when it comes to both North and South parts of those countries, and the way that they were fought, and the tunnels in both countries, underground tunnels and whatnot. Now, the Korean War obviously was a Korean conflict or military police action, but so was Vietnam, right? Because Congress, the United States, did not want to officially declare either one of them as a war. Nevertheless, Korea happened first. When we went over there to intervene in 1950, we've been there since. We never left. So that is 70 years, okay? And during the time that we were in Korea, still from 65 to 75, we had then the Vietnam conflict military police action as well. And the ROC forces, Republic of Korea, which is our ally. Notice the United States of America is a republic. It is not a democracy. It's not a theocracy. It's not a monarchy, etc. It's a republic with a constitution. So it's a constitutional republic, and same thing. South Korea modeled, once we freed them, in 53, they modeled their form of government after ours. Now the ROC forces, Republic of Korea forces, our allies, went and joined us in Vietnam from 65 to 75 against the North Vietnamese. Okay, so now they discovered tunnels over in South Korea as well, of course in Vietnam, but in Korea in 1975 from the north to the south. All right, so there's a lot in common concerning Vietnam and Korea. Now, Korea, there I was, once again, 13-month tour duty as they were assigned in Vietnam. While I was there, the Department of the Defense had decided to shorten our tours. From there on out, anybody that was there with a 13-month tour would now receive a 12-month tour, which I would have been happy to have kept that extra month and served there. And anybody who was being sent there was going to now be given a 12-month tour of duty. So during my 12-month tour of duty, went out on many operations, many missions, and one operation in particularly was we launched it. It was its maiden voyage called Operation Team Spirit. It was a combination of both the all of ROC U.S. forces and the U.S. Armed Forces of every branch, the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force. At that time, we did not have the Coast Guard listed as a branch of the armed forces like we do now. It's the fifth branch as a result of Desert Storm. However, during that Operation Team Spirit that we launched, it became an annual operation ever since then for quite some time. They've had many operations as well that have been annual. But that was the very first time that Operation Team Spirit was launched. I was part of it from April 1st to April 9th, 1977. And about 5 of us guys, part of an A-team, got airlifted up, Huey helicopter, as far northeast as you possibly go, to a remote mountaintop area, complete mountains, complete remote area, up on top of a mountain, and could see North Korea from where we were at. Very remote area and no man's land, basically, although there were people there that you couldn't see. And then from there, we could see down the mountains to the Sea of Japan. We're up there for 8 nights and 9 days, and right across the saddle of that mountain was a rock bunker with scouts over there, our allies, that were intercepting, paying attention to North Korean radio messages, etc. Now, I want to focus on that point right there for a second, but we'll come back to that. But those scouts over there, we became friends with them. They're the only people in the whole area that you could see. Now, there were people there, but they were hidden in the South Koreans. And so, anyway, they would come over with lock and load and scout our areas for any North Korean infiltrators as well. So we actually spent the night over there a couple of nights. And our job as well, part of our job, my job was combat communications. So we were up there with our communications, send back intelligence from that area back to headquarters command in the field. And what more can I say? So I took undergraduate out of advanced training for these combat communications, okay, out in the field. And so this is very, very relevant because now Free Korea Radio has partnered with Hobo Chillin'. Welcome to the group. So anyway, Free Korea Radio has partnered with Far East Broadcasting Company, FEBC, that's been around for 75 years, and we've just made contribution to them before. They buy radios for $40 and they give them to villages, and sometimes a whole village will gather around that one radio, and it has AM, FM bands, but the particular frequencies that Far East Broadcasting Company is going to be broadcasting on will be specific. Those people can tune in, and the gospel of Jesus is being preached, okay, over those airwaves to the people of Southeast Asia and also everywhere in Asia where they can go. And now, as I have begun to partner with Far East Broadcasting Company, I noticed just recently, about 2 weeks ago, that the first thing that came up was they are building a radio station in South Korea. They have been given land, which means a mountain because Korea is full of mountains, right? They've been given a land, now watch this, that they're building a radio station on with a tall, powerful transmitting tower that now over the airwaves, the gospel of Jesus can go into North Korea and cannot be stopped, okay, over those airwaves. Now, I know any military has the sophistication to block radio transmissions and scramble them and whatever. But obviously something's going on here where they're saying that this will not be able to be accomplished on the north part. This message will go over the airwaves. The airwaves will be able to be understood and received in North Korea. Now, the only thing it's going to require, now watch this though, is people in North Korea to have radios. Now, probably radios are outlawed in North Korea, other than this, that they have radios that have frequencies and bands that will be able to pick up their own country's North Korean radio propaganda radio messages, and possibly from China, perhaps not. I don't know if they allowed any transmissions coming in from China. And so what are we saying here? That the radios that the North Koreans have will probably only have a couple of frequencies on there that would be able to even receive anything. Now, in saying that there's going to have to be radios smuggled in to North Korea, probably from China, that have all the AM and FM bands on those radios. And as a result of that, with those smuggled and illegal radios that the North Koreans have, if they're ever caught with those radios, there will be consequences. God forbid. I ain't gonna say will be. There potentially will be consequences, and severe consequences to any North Koreans that are found with that kind of radio. Because now with that kind of radio, that's where Far East Broadcasting Company is going to be able to preach over the airwaves, transmit from their signal and their tower over the frequency and call sign, call letter, whatever, on that band of AM or FM, whatever it is in particular. And then these people with those radios in North Korea will be able to receive these messages. And I believe that's going to happen. So they are building this radio station, and now I have immediately partnered with them on that part, because I was already going to partner with Far East Broadcasting Company in the first place. And the first thing that came up was they're doing this. So I said, absolutely perfect timing, because in 2017, I actually created Free Korea Radio 3 years ago. But as a result of me, and I've done nothing with it, okay? And nothing. I just created the logo, and I had a thought, and I said, I just want to do this. But 3 years have gone by, and all of a sudden, when I did that, and I made that contribution, it reminded me of my Free Korea radio that I had in my archives of this logo. And I said, it's time for me to start a broadcast. And so I got my Facebook page, Free Korea Radio Facebook page, and now hear my broadcast on Podbean. Okay, so here we go. We're launching live on Podbean. And now, when I was in South Korea, I was preached the gospel of Jesus by three fellow soldiers. Okay, Rodney Hamer, Lee Bolden, Alonzo Caves. Lee Bolden was a pretty fresh, not too fresh, but pretty fresh out of Vietnam, combat infantry veteran, who his wife was born again back home, praying for his safety. And Lee went through all these 13 months of combat, search and destroy missions, seeing his buddies get killed, etc., etc. He was not born again. He goes home. He makes it safely there. His wife's prayers, right? In Jesus' name. He accepts Jesus there, gets sent to South Korea, witnesses to me. Rodney Hamer, that just got saved, born again a month before he got sent to South Korea, was sent there in July. I arrived there in August. Lee had already been there too. Then there was Alonzo Caves, who, and like I said, Rodney just received Jesus a month before he got sent to Korea when he was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas prior to that, which is interesting because after Korea, I went to Fort Hood, Texas. That's where my next duty station was. But while in Korea, there was Alonzo Caves as well. His mother brought him up, his grandmother brought him up in church. Now, all three of these guys were brothers from a different mother, if you know what I mean. They're black guys, African-American soldiers, and born-again Christians, okay? So then 2.5 months of me being in Korea and then witnessing the gospel to me, I was their first convert. They witnessed to everybody they could. They evangelized, told people about Jesus. I was their first convert. So I was their firstborn, a white guy, okay, with them as my spiritual fathers. And so then I witnessed to my whole company the next day. And from there on out, we witnessed and evangelized the whole post. And then we evangelized the town. We had a Korean American crusade for Christ Jesus with the Chuncheon Udodom Church that we partnered with, Reverend Song and them, and would fellowship with. And then we had that crusade there where us soldiers got tailor-made suits there. For mine was $45. Back in those days, I didn't make that much money anyway, but Korean goods were inexpensive and really good quality. And so I had a suit made, and we were the choir, we were the ushers, we had our tags made, Korean American Crusade for Christ Jesus. Brother James, who was 21, got sent to Korea, been saved in Germany as a soldier, delivered from heroin, delivered from drug dealing, everything as a soldier. And born again, started learning the word, became a teacher in the Lord, 21 years old. There he is in South Korea now, 4 or 5 years later after Germany. And there he is teaching us the word. Okay, then the fellowship grew and grew. God would send us people and we would lead people to the Lord. So it grew and grew and grew. We had a vision. Brother James had a vision. Angel visited him. Dave McCandle, he was caught up in the spirit praying. Brother Al, I was 17. Brother Al was 17, was there with him. He come out of this prayer in the spirit. He said, I just seen an angel. He gave me a candle. Al turned to the revelation and says, hey, it means the church. God has made us, this fellowship of brothers, these soldiers, us soldiers on campaign, a church before him, like the 7 churches mentioned in Revelation. And every church of every city has a candle. Not every church building in every city, but God sees every church, although they're so splintered, everywhere throughout the towns and cities in America, and you got 100 different churches in one city. God still sees every one of those churches as one, and he assigns one angel, mighty powerful angel, over that church of that whole body in that city. And that one candle represents all the churches. And so we have an angel right to the angel of that city, right to the angel of that church, the whole body, it says in Revelations. So there, for every city there in America and around the world, there is one powerful angel for each city that has that candle represents that church before the Lord. And so now Brother James comes out of that, and we realized we're established as a church before the Lord. We had an apostleship. I joined the military to be a soldier, but God had extra plans for me, so that He sent us and God anointed us. We established that church. What's an apostle? An apostle is one that's anointed of God and sent forth to establish. I did not know that was God's plan. But God revealed that to me, and I got born again there because God sent me there. And guess what? I received Jesus, and we're anointed of the Lord. After 2.5 months of being in Korea, I spent my whole 12 months there. But I was a good soldier. I took undergraduate out of AIT with the promotion above my peers. Went in as E1, no stripes. 4 months later, E2, everybody got a stripe, 1 stripe, private E2. Get sent to Korea. What happens? Even before Korea, after advanced training, before Korea, I got took undergraduate out of advanced training with another promotion, a rocker underneath my private stripe. So I'm PFC, private first class, and all of my peers are 1 stripe behind me now. Get sent to Korea. I was made part of an A team. And what happened? I received Jesus, okay? And guess what? It made me a better soldier yet. I was an excellent soldier, and it made me a better soldier yet. Then while in Korea, and then 9 months later, every one of us got a promotion. They got E3 finally, and I had been to E3 for 9 months, and they finally got E3, and I got promoted to E4 that same day. They got promoted to E3. The Lord just wants to enhance your life. He's not trying to take as much from you as He's trying to get to you. So here's the deal. All right? So it made me a better soldier. Now, I received Jesus. We evangelized everything. We evangelized everywhere we went. And I'm going to tell you now that I'm sure I witnessed to those soldiers in that bunker on that remote area, up in those mountains, that mountaintop over there by North Korea, by the Sea of Japan, out there remote by themselves. How many guys were there? 4 or 5 guys, what have you, and lonely. They're there for a long time. They're glad to have us as visitors, and the Korean people are very welcoming and very lovely and very loving. So anyway, as we fellowship with Reverend Song at his church, Chungcheon Udodom Church, I seen Brother James show me, look, got pictures in the paper, the Korean Chungcheon paper, all in Korean writing. Brother James and Reverend Song on the front page. We rented the auditorium, the one auditorium of that whole city. It was packed for 3 days. Brother James preached in English and Reverend Song interpreted in Korean. So now on that operation, Team Spirit, 8 nights, 9 days, there we are out there blanketing all of South Korea, protecting them. Then, now back to Camp Page, all right? So we have the revival, all right? And now I'm having difficulty remembering exactly what month that was. However, the auditorium was packed for 3 days that I remember. We were the ushers, the brothers were the ushers, and we were the choir. I remember singing Amazing Grace. On stage, okay, with the brothers there. And we had a table, and Brother James refreshed my memory and says that long table was filled stacks of papers, probably a foot high, maybe a half a foot high, whatever, all across the table, okay, the length and the width of it. Okay, of people that gave their life to Jesus and testimonies, people that were healed and everything, okay, there. And we made a pact among ourselves as brothers. If you see a new person come through Camp Page, witness to him and say, excuse me, brother, can I talk to you about the Lord Jesus? And if he says yes, you have Romans Road of Salvation mapped out in your Bible if you might remember that. And we showed him. And then we showed them that, and then say, would you like to receive Jesus? And some people did right there in the spot. I led people to the Lord like that, right there in the spot. A sergeant that came in from Thailand, the night he came in, I was there at the bus stop on Camp Page, and the bus stopped. He got off and said, how you doing, brother? Can I help you find your way? Where are you going? He said, yeah, I'm going to this unit. I said, I know where it's at. Grabbed his bags with him and for him, walking down the way, talking to him about Jesus. Can I tell you about Jesus? He said, sure. We go in the barracks, and I said, would you like to receive Jesus after I tell him about the Lord? And right there in front of everybody, he said, yes. He bowed his head and he prayed the prayer of salvation and got born again. He brought his wife over from Thailand with her children whose previous husband had got killed in the Vietnam War just prior to that. Well, he was there after she was a widow. He met her. She had 2 children, and he brought those 3, his wife and the 2 children as his own, to South Korea, and they had an apartment off post. So anyway, in Chuncheon. So all these things, man, and I've, of course, never forgotten Korea since then. And Korea is I kind of say that's where my story began. Okay, I'm American, but Korean by roots. Okay, I'm American by roots and Korean by nature, or what have you. But Korea, my story, really a big story, big part of my life from there on out begins there in South Korea. So now I was able to receive Jesus, and now I've launched this, and now this is my very first radio broadcast. And I say, 예수 그리스도 당신을 사랑합니다. Jesus Christ loves you. 예수님 하나님이시다. Jesus is God. Jesus is Lord. And with this, I'm going to go ahead and end this broadcast. I say, 감사합니다. Thank you very much. And 안녕히 가십시오. Goodbye for now. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you for tuning in. I salute you. God bless.